Hello, thank you so much for being part of the interview. Let's immediately start with the first question. To please introduce yourself and yeah, and how are you doing?
Okay, I'm Matthias from Lost in the Garden, and we're a small company from Vienna. This is Raimund, the other one. uh, Introduce yourself, maybe, Raimund?
I'm Raymond. I'm doing art at Lost in the Garden.
Yeah, right. I'm doing the programming stuff, and we're in total four actually. The other two are occupied right now. So there's also Julia, who is doing technical art, and Simon, who is also a programmer. And the rest of the dirty stuff like taxes and stuff like that, and this dev, we are splitting between each other with secondary roles as well.
Cool. I mean, Lost in the Garden is a studio I think pretty much everyone in Austria already knows. Has already established its name.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you have a history, and we would love to hear this history, I guess.
Mhm. Well, to go back, I think 2015, or actually 2015 was actually the
14.
founding date. 14 was the founding date, but it started, I think, 2 years before that. It started at the Game Jam where I met Raimund. This is actually the very first thing that happened. That we worked together on a game where that was actually very serious. It was about dying and helping, or not helping people to die, but being with people who are dying and helping them to not be alone and things like that. So it was a really serious game, and that actually made a very strong connection through working on something like that. And Simon was also involved there. Simon was the organizer of the game jam, so this was where we three met actually, and um, I think it was quite soon after the game jam. I invited those two to come over to my place for a weekend to create a prototype for a game that I had in my mind for years and years and years, and never actually could get it to work on my own. So we created a prototype on one weekend, and we actually liked it. Wanted to put more time into that, and I think already the second time around, Julia joined us, which was actually the working colleague of Raimund. So they had kind of a company together, and we used their office with the four of us, very cramped on one desk to work on the prototype. But we realized
With other people in the background.
yes, it was really crowded, and the other people in the office weren't that happy that we were actually there without paying, and so we realized it can't go on like that because we spent way too much spare time in there. So we decided either we do it or we don't do it. So we took off for 1 month from our jobs, which was easy because we were all self-employed and Simon was still a student. So we took the month, polished the prototype, made a really nice looking prototype out of it, and showed it around everyone, and got a very positive feedback that we should go for that, which led to us to actually try to get funding, and got funding for it. And it evolved through that, and company funding of Lost in the Garden into our in our major game that we produced for Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. It's called Lightfield, and this is more or less how we happened, how we started to exist, and yeah, this is the founding history of that, more or less.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. Yeah, I think this was a really impressive project, and yeah, I mean, of course, we would love to. Oh yes, Lightfield. Yes.
Oh, it's the Japanese version. Sorry.
Is this a hidden code we just saw?
No, it's just Japanese. So
Okay. Good. Yeah, people can see this as like a Corona call right now because there are some delays happening. I'm just looking at one specific person, Raymond, right now. No, but yeah. This has been a huge project. I can really remember like this, especially since you you had a big goal. And also it was really amazing that you published for this big consoles, right? It's incredible. What are you doing now? What current games are you working on?
So the idea was always, when we founded the company, we already founded the company before we really knew that we will be able to produce a game. But the thought in the back of our minds that we want to work together either way. And so we were all self-employed, so we wanted to continue like that. And so it was no surprise for us that we wanted, even after the game was finished, we wanted to do freelance work. So we wanted to do to not be the only responsible person for the project anymore, because producing your own game is also, at least for me, a very strong emotional burden. That it is your baby, your thing, that you always want to be as perfect as possible. And it's nice to actually have someone else out there who also tells you that this is enough now, or this is nice, or this is not good enough, or whatever. To have someone else have a say in a project, that's actually sometimes can be really refreshing after cooking in your own soup for 3 years. That's actually something that we really like. And now we actually do freelance work as a company for 2.5 years, I think now, and ranging from doing interactive experiences that works kind of like escape the rooms, up to internet or network connected team training software. We did everything. We did a game on a vending machine for Red Bull. So we had a Red Bull vending machine where there's a Red Bull can falling out in the bottom when you are able to finish the game on the vending machine. So we did a lot of crazy, interesting, different stuff, which is really, really cool. What we really, really like right now, we're working on virtual reality and augmented reality things for a company. So this is what we are doing to actually earn a living. But of course, our love is still with games, and we're still doing some game jams internally. So we worked on a game jam for it was a play. What is the name again?
Playground
Playground
construction.
simulator. Playground construction simulator. That was the thing I was looking for. And the idea was that you have to build a playground that is as exciting as possible, with at least casualties as possible. So yes, some children will die, but as long as it's not too many children that are dying, it's great. So that was more or less the idea behind the whole thing. And it was more like a game jam where we really wanted to have a project that we can finish, or at least have something to play around with after a week. And it was surprisingly hard for us actually to get back into this mindset of working again and on something on our own. But it was totally worth it, and it was really fun and to have this back. And our other big project, maybe Raymond, you talk about Odyssey, what it is and what happened so far.
Yeah, that also resulted from an internal brainstorming session, and to kind of progress what we did with light fields, where we saw we really enjoy the explorative gameplay style. So it was kind of no-brainer to do like more of an exploration game, and the story is that you travel to a planet and explore the planet and the cultures that have been there already. But that's the long-term project.
Yeah. So as far as we got, was actually a very, very, very simple prototype to get an idea for what we actually gonna need for the project. So what are the moving parts, because we want to have something like a car, a vehicle to drive around, and we want to have that you can also walk and do something on foot somewhere in there. And those were the parameters we wanted to test if this works in combination for us, and also to see how big does the world have to be that it's interesting to actually explore. And on the other hand, we also did a lot of, or especially Raimund did a lot of visual prototyping. So how could a world like that look like? How visually should that be? And all that what came out of that, we actually uh, um, um, for all of that, we actually did win the content award in Vienna for creative projects. So that was really nice to already have a thumbs up that it looks nice and it sounds amazing. And so that's still something why we still want to continue working on it. But again, since it's a huge project, roughly the size again of Lightfield, we again have to find the point in time where we could start working on it and have again this wiggle room to start with again a prototype where we have a full month, test it out, show to people, get funding and all that. So we have to fit this now into the whole thing.
Cool.
The funny thing about is also that we really wanted to get into procedural like terrain generation and procedural modeling, and that's something that we really use in the current project that we do as contract work.
Cool.
So
very good. Yeah.
It also kind of came together.
I mean, you touched already this topic a little bit, I guess. But what are your future plans, and especially like the future vision with the studio?
I guess this is the vision to actually always do contract work. So we don't want to stop that ever. So on the one hand, it actually earns the money for a living. On the other hand, it is actually a good change of pace from time to time to actually have short-term goals that you can finish and someone else picks it up, and still work on our own games whenever it fits and we can actually generate the funding or come up with the funding for it. So this is the future, and we don't plan it as explicitly like, okay, in 3 years we want that game, and in 5 years we want to have this finished. We actually just plan 1 year ahead, and more money wise than project wise. So this is how we operate right now.
Good. Yeah. What advice would you have for young developers or people trying to get into the games industry?
I think it's getting to know people. It's the most important thing for me was to get to know Raimund and Simon, and true, in my case it was game jams, but there are so many possibilities to meet people, like the game dev Graz, or the game dev days in Graz, or in Vienna the meetup and Supertron and everything that exists out there to meet people. That's actually the most important thing you can do. So it doesn't matter what your abilities or your skills are; those will grow. But if you don't have someone you can grow with alongside with, it never gonna happen. So get to know people. That's, I think, the most important part in this industry.
Yeah, that's also my number one recommendation, to go to game jams, which is probably a bit hard right now, but you can still, like, if you want to make a game, just make a game and find some people to help you, and then you have something to show, right? Even if it's not like the best thing ever, but it's great to have something in your portfolio, and it's a great learning experience.
Thank you so much for pointing this out. This, like, you're speaking out of my heart. I also believe like game jams and community events are super important. But there has been a weird year, right? So 2020
Yes.
was not super easy, and like especially for the things you just mentioned. And I mean, the next and also the last question would tackle this topic. How was 2020 for you? How did you cope with the situation? And I mean, do you have any takeaways? And what are you looking for when things are getting a little bit more normal again?
Especially that meeting people again. It's actually it feels you sometimes feel like an island, like my flat. So we are not in the office. We are working from home, all of us. The only one in the office is actually Raimund, but since he's alone in the office, it's like working from home. So it's actually missing these connections that's the hardest for me, and it is not going to the office, not meeting the others, and but also not going out in the evening and making new connections. So it feels like the world is slowly getting smaller again around me, and I can't wait to grow it again, to be out there and grow my world again beyond my four walls. That's what I'm looking forward to most, to go to meetups again, because I saw so many new projects popping up, and I want to talk to those people. I want to know who are those people doing these amazing new games that are popping up everywhere and that I never heard of before. And normally I know a lot of them because I'm going to meetups and Supertrons and I don't know what. But now I have no idea. Suddenly things pop up and I want to know those people.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can also say that my efficiency is also a bit less right now, because it's just way more practical to be in the same room with people. But at the same time, I also feel very privileged that I still have work and stuff to do, which pays the bills.
Yeah. Which is really something really nice, that we weren't affected at all by Corona when professionally wise. So we lost a little bit of money, but it's not as bad because there were other projects popping up because of that. So it wasn't that bad.
No escape rooms for a while.
Yeah. This was a pleasure. Thank you so much for your really interesting and honest answers. I'm also looking forward to meet people again. And thanks so much.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.